What's up guys, Sinnski here, and today we're going to be going over the tips to not only make running each raid easier, but tips that are going to secure you getting out of your raid with all the precious loot. Before we get started, I just want to thank everyone for the ridiculous support on all the videos, and I just want to say that I have a lot more in store for everyone, so make sure you hit the subscribe button, like the video, and with that being said, let's get straight into it. One of the hardest things that new players come across when coming into Dark and Darker is the learning curve the game might have. Whether it be what to loot, what to fight, and how to fight, there really is no clear indication of the right thing to do in the moment. Even us veterans have a hard time choosing what loot to drop in the moment, or what fight to push, or what fights we shouldn't have pushed. It's all part of the Dark and Darker experience. But one thing that I can say is that distance is probably the most important factor in any fight for any class. Whether it be for a range class like Mage, Ranger, or Warlock, or even a melee class as a cleric, bard, or a fighter. Distance between you and whatever you are fighting is going to be one of the most important things. There's a lot of things you could do with distance, and we're going to break it down a little bit so you can not only better understand how to create the space, but also how to manipulate it within that space so that you could have the upper hand advantage against adds or even players. Sun Tzu once said, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. Now this would be applicable in a gunfight, but when it comes to swords, bows, and magic, there's a lot of downtime before a fight where you and the enemy stare at each other, and this could be a time where you can look for the advantages and disadvantages you may have. Let me give you an example. You're a ranger versus a cleric. An advantage you may have is that you have long range attack, you have faster move speed than him, and depending on the situation and how it's played out, you may do more damage consistently with your shots. But notice the disadvantages. He has a higher armor rating, depending on the gear, heals, and a shield which can be used to close the gap between you and himself without taking unnecessary damage. Distance can also give you the choice of whether or not you want to engage in a battle. Is this team being chased? Are they low health? Are they completely juiced out players? Everything can be noticed from a distance, and distance can help you make the right or wrong decision in wanting to push. Now the hard part isn't having distance between you and said player, but maintaining it is the hard part. So this is a tip for all the rangers and any other class that feels obligated to keep that distance. Always keep a plan B. A plan B could be jumping down to a lower level and forcing the enemy to leave their comforted position, or having a doorway you could just bound back into when they're closing the gap for you. Always have a plan B ready for when the fight isn't going your way. Another tip, look up and down. Map manipulation can take you a very long way. The meta right now from what I've seen is rogues going into unheard of spots. Spots that you could never think someone can hide in. Now those can be on the lips of corridor pillars, it could be a wooden rafter, or just a very dark corner where they could jump high into the corner. Make sure you look up and around and look for things like health pots, purple smoke, pink sparks, and green poison, that way you could spot them before they take the initiative. Now we covered looking up, let's cover looking down. One of the biggest baits a ranger could ever pull is using a hunting trap, engaging on a fight, and then bounding back. It makes the ranger seem like a noob because they make you think this guy is terrified of me. But in reality, if you chased him, then all the cards are in his hand. One of the biggest things you could do while closing the distance is, did the ranger jump through the doorway? Did he go through the door a certain way? Did he shut the door?
Killed one.
These are things that you should notice, and if you did, push with your team, or if you're solo, find another route to get to that same point. Want to jump over hunting traps and get to higher heights? When you press your jump button and press crouch when you're in the air, you can actually reach a higher distance with your feet, so make sure you are crouch jumping when going onto things. Getting surrounded by a ton of mobs, they don't want to take unnecessary damage. If there's a shrine of health nearby, you could do that crouch jump technique and jump to the top, and the mobs can't hit you, which allows you to get free hits in. I usually do this for that little library room with the hidden coffin secret spike room, and I do it with the champion and the wraith, and it's just easy loot. Now there's a lot of classes that feel so slow when you're running from mobs or trying to run out of the storm. The best thing you do is press X. This allows you to sheath your weapon and run quicker, so make sure you're doing that so you can get from point A to point B quicker. Low health with no meds, running out of spells on the cleric or mage. If you press G, this will sit you down and slowly regenerate health and spells. It might be a little bit slow, but you never know when that little bit of health will come in handy. Another tip, take a down portal in any emergency. Sometimes the cards aren't in your favor, so the next best thing is to take a down portal. Those will be the big red portal stones that come up. I know hell seems kind of terrifying, but there's a numerous amount of ways that you can cheese some of the mobs down there. So we'll break that down as well. When you get to hell, the only thing that is going to kill you and force you into positions you don't want to be in is time. The circles move much more quickly in the lower levels, so make sure that when you get to hell, you take the initiative and you start working your way through the mobs. One huge thing that helps you is having a height advantage over the mobs. So try and find a ledge where you can get the monsters next to you, but they can't reach you with their hits. You could also cheese the Demon Centaur and Demon Warlord by giving them the height advantage on the stairs and crouching while you attack them. This basically makes their swings go above your head and allows you to farm them as a solo without having to be a ranger. You could do the same thing to the Skeleton Champion and the Wraith. Another cheese for the Wraith is that if you're with people, you could have someone take the aggro, and once it is on them, if you press G, the Wraith can't hit them, and that allows whoever it is on the team to DPS the boss down. What I noticed a lot of players do also is that not a lot of players break pots and vases for loot. I'm telling you, I have gotten ridiculous things out of breaking pots, so make sure you guys are breaking those just to get a little bit of extra loot. Another advice for looting is to bring a purse with you in raid. This allows you to hold 50 gold in your inventory in one slot, which can save up space for a lot more loot. Bring invis potions. Taking PvE aggro and going invis will sick the PvE on the nearest player, and it's really hard to shake that aggro without an invis potion. You could also move your mouse around every swing to either delay or speed up the timing of a hit to avoid it being blocked. You could also move your mouse around so you can cleave multiple players or PvE in one swing, even with a thrust attack. I do this a lot on my rogue with the weak point attack, and it actually weak points both targets, I'm pretty sure. I don't know if that's an actual tip, don't trust that, but if it feels like it does. Pre-time your strikes. If someone's opening the door in front of you, it's really hard to avoid them, especially if it's like a spear. It's almost impossible to avoid that kind of damage. Throw your torch on a trap, wait for it to go back down, and walk halfway over it, and then jump. It takes about half a second to rearm, so make sure you're really quick. There are set spawns for bandages and potions in both the Goblin and the Skeleton dungeons. Typically anywhere with bookshelves has a chance to spawn them. You could also get jewelry there, but it's a really good place to check if you're low on funds and healing. Mummies and Deathskulls also have a fairly good chance of dropping healing on top of decent treasure. Deathskulls are usually where you'll find the most jewelry, such as amulets, along with utility items like lockpicks, throwing knives, the Viking axes, and oil lanterns. Protection potions are huge when dealing with PvP or trap rooms that are hard to navigate through. While temporary, even like a 20-point protection potion can make the difference in a fight, whether negating the first heavy hit from a bow or an axe, or mitigating some chip damage. Now here comes one of the biggest pieces of advice in the game. Don't have gear fear. As someone who played Tarkov for nearly 4 years, I can say that having gear fear is a real thing, and it cripples the ability to play and have fun. Don't be afraid to use the good gear you got to get good gear in the runs. It's okay to die every now and then because that's really part of the game, and it's a good part of the learning and rolling with the punches and figuring out what you did or didn't do that led you to that point. Thanks for the cape. Thanks for the cape. Thanks for the cape. Most of all, though, is have fun. The game's hard as hell. The PvE can punish even the best geared, experienced players for a minor mess up, or adding the ability for getting ganked at the worst times means you'll probably die a lot. That's part of the gameplay, and honestly, learning to roll with the punches is a big part of the initial learning. That's all the tips that I have right now. I want to make it a little bit more of a descriptive and visual, appealing video breaking down a lot of the tips, because I know it doesn't do a lot of justice when you guys don't see all of them. It's just I don't have a clip for all of them, and I don't want to steal other creators' content because that's their content and I don't feel comfortable using it. But thank you guys so much for watching the video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you guys can take this information and learn how to play better, get some loot, and I hope I see you guys in the raids. Don't forget to subscribe, like it, share. If I missed any tips, make sure you comment down below. And again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys for supporting the channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Boosh. That is the best lick I think I've ever hit on somebody. That was like the #1 lick I think I've ever hit on anybody. Like doing what I just did, you know what I'm saying? All I had was this fucking insane longbow